This is a brand new Trek Madone SLR, and it's easily the most radical new road bike launched in 2022. Hello viewers and welcome back to Just Ride Bikes. Today, yes you guessed it, we are talking about the brand new Trek Madone that has been finally announced. Now, Trek Madone race bike was named after a lovely climb in the south of France. Definitely highly recommend doing it. Really nice views, lovely gradient. And the Madone race bike was first introduced in 2003 and had quite a bit of success with a rider we won't mention the name of. But the bike itself has changed a lot over the years. Primarily a lightweight race bike in the early days of carbon fibre as well, but then became an aerodynamic racer in 2016. But for 2023 model year, I think it's fair to say the bike undergoes its biggest, most radical update of its life. The new bike was spotted in the Dauphiné a few weeks ago, loads of coverage on the interweb about it, lots of speculation, lots of questions about the bike. But today, with the launch of the bike, we have all the answers to the questions we want answering, such as why the hell is a hole in the seat tube? Well, let's dive in and find out. Sadly, I don't have my hands on the bike yet. I am trying to get hold of one, but supply issues are such that getting hold of one is really tricky. But stay tuned, hopefully I'll have a ride on the bike very soon and see how it compares to the old bike and the other aero bikes that I've ridden here on the channel, Just Ride Bikes. But we can talk about all the details from the press pack and my reaction to some of the changes on this bike based on my experience of riding the old Madone, which is a bike I really liked actually. I have to say, one of the nicer, easier riding aero bikes. So the key takeaway from the launch for the new bike is that it's faster, it's lighter, and it's just as comfy as the old Madone. All claims from Trek. So let's have a look at what they've done to it. So the biggest change on the bike is that they ditched the IsoSpeed decoupler and brought in this new IsoFlow hole, for want of a better description, in the seat tube. Now with the IsoSpeed decoupler, which you could adjust, apparently according to Trek, riders, whether amateur or pros, just weren't adjusting it, weren't using the feature. They'd either leave it as it came from the bike shop or adjusted it and then left it for the whole time they rode the bike. And this tallies with my experience of riding the bike. When I had it on review, I put it in the softest setting and left it there the whole time because the roads where I live are pretty crumbly, and that softest setting gave a nice smooth level of comfort and definitely one of the easier riding, nicer riding aero bikes in my experience. But that said, they weren't prepared to accept a compromise in comfort of the new Madone. So they've gone to a cantilever design, which apparently, according to their claims, offers the same level of comfort as the old Madone in the firmest IsoSpeed decoupler setting. So comfort is still apparently good enough for most riders and smoother than most other aero bikes. So the comfort is definitely something they changed, not as potentially comfy as the old bike, but still comfortable enough likely for most people, especially if you're a pro level rider, where comfort is rarely a kind of top level consideration. What is a consideration for pro riders is the weight, and apparently lots of requests from the pro riders for a lighter frame. And getting rid of the IsoSpeed decoupler has shed loads of weight from the frame set. So the whole bike, the system weight has gone down by 300 grams, with 150 grams coming from the frame itself, the rest from a new handlebar and stem, which we'll talk about later in the video. This weight saving makes the new Madone the lightest it's ever been, but it's still heavier than the Madone SLR by 400 grams. But it definitely narrows the gap between the Madone and the Madone more than ever. So 400 grams might not be a deal breaker for you. You might be prepared to accept a small weight penalty for the aero performance you get on a flatter or undulating course and save the Madone for the really mountainous climbs. With a SRAM red E-tap groups it all and some fancy Bontrager ALS carbon wheels in the highest end specification, you're looking at 7.36 kilograms for a size 56. And all the bikes are below 8 kilograms or thereabouts, so pretty decent weight for an aero bike. So far then, the new IsoFlow saves weight and offers the same comfort more or less as the old IsoSpeed decoupler. But then there's the aero. Now it's true that as part of the frame, the seat tube does get lots of messy air. By the time the air gets to the seat tube, it's gone past the head tube and got the spinning legs of a rider. But despite all that, the company claims the IsoFlow offers a substantial benefit over the old design. So it's claiming with a rider on the bike, the new bike offers a 60-second saving at 45 km/h, or a 19 watt drag reduction at a range of speeds from 25 to 45. It's actually saying that the savings are more or less the same within a few seconds of each other, where we're going 25k an hour, 35 or 45, which is quite odd because normally the savings are most significant at 45, those kind of pro level speeds, and then tail quite a bit down to more real world speed. But it's saying that the savings in drag reduction are about the same in that 25 to 45 kilometer per hour range, which is quite something, and something I can't wait to try to see whether the savings are as good at 25 as they are at 45. Now, all aero claims, we have to take them with a pinch of salt, but it says it did 2 years of testing using CFD technology and then wind tunnel verification using a pelling mannequin to make sure the savings from the computer to the real world in the wind tunnel were there with a rider on the bike. There's no point testing a bike without a rider because the legs, the way they interact with the frame are really key, especially around that seat tube area, to ensuring the area gains they find actually stack up in real world. But dig into the data a bit more, and of that 19 watt drag reduction, only 9.3 watts actually come from the frame itself. The rest comes from the rider position that has been refined through a new handlebar, stem and headset spacers on the new bike. Because as we know, the rider is 80% of the drag when you're on the bike. So if you can put the rider in a more aero position, you're going to save a bunch of watts. As Trek have found, 10 watts come from the rider position and 9 watts from the frame itself. So the biggest aero gains on the new Trek Madone actually come from the rider position on the bike, and that's achieved via a new handlebar, stem and spacer, which is a big upgrade and big improvement over the old bike. It's easy to focus on the IsoFlow being the main feature, but I think the big story here is really the handlebar and stem, because that frontal surface area is absolutely key to how a bike performs in the wind in different range conditions in the real world. So they have developed a brand new area handlebar, and they really worked on the shape of the area handlebar section to manage the airflow over the handlebar and how it interacts with the rider, which is not dissimilar to what Hope and Ribble have been doing with their handlebars, really trying to make sure that they considered the rider's arms and legs with how the air flows over the handlebar and the stem. And then the other difference is basically making the handlebar narrower. So they're using a flare drop gravel handlebar, essentially, not gravel handlebar, but taking that flare drop concept from a gravel bike to a road bike. And what they've done is move the hoods in 3 centimeters compared to the drops, and that puts the rider in a narrower position. There are 14 sizes of handlebar and stem, and you fit any handlebar and stem you want as well if you don't want to use a Bontrager setup by using a different headset cap. But this idea of forcing riders onto a narrow handlebar isn't a new one, because Canyon did it with the launch of the Aero back in 2014, 2015, using a narrower handlebar than you would normally use. So if you're normally on a 42, go down to 40, and that's the same concept here. Narrower is faster, as it turns out. So as you can see, we have 2 big changes on the new Madone. New handlebar, stem, and that front end position, and then that new IsoFlow to create a faster, less draggy bike. But there are some other changes on the rest of the frame. All the tube profiles, down tube, seat tube, and top tube have been refined using the same camtail concept as the old bike, but refined to improve aero where they can. Then the bottom bracket has a real kind of step junction to it, and that's designed to improve aero in that section. The bottom bracket itself is now, thankfully, round of applause, a T47 design. The frame is disc brake only and electronic only. There's no space for mechanical groups on this bike. And the seat mask, which is a key feature on Trek Madone going way back, now offers a wider range of height adjustment, which is good for those worried about after sales of the Madone. You now have more range of adjustment, either for yourself or for the rider buying a bike if you sell it second hand. Max tyre capacity is pegged at the same 28mm wide as the old bike. Shame they haven't gone wider, 30, 32, but I guess it's a race bike, and the pros aren't using anything wider than 28, they're still on 25, 26. And they have the Amonda and Damane for Cobble Classic, where they do need wider tyres. Now, of course, naturally, there will be durability concerns around the cantilever flexing section of the frame. When asked about this, Trek says it's been testing the bike for the last 2 years, and it's been working on the tube shapes and the carbon fibre layout, and it's confident that the structural integrity of the frame is good. But, of course, only time will tell if the durability is as good as they're confident it is. The bike, as we've seen, has been used in pro races already. Going to be used in the Tour de France over the next 3 weeks. So all eyes will be on the bike to see if there are any issues. Now, I can't say whether the bike is as durable as they say until I ride it and get it on long-term review. Now, I know Trek do have lots of experience with carbon fibre manufacturing, and they've had and done flexing carbon rear stays on mountain bikes in years gone by. So I'm confident they've done their homework. They know their onions when it comes to carbon fibre manufacturing and layup, and they've done what they need to do to make sure the design is durable and there won't be any catastrophic failures out there in the field. But time will tell. Watch this space for sure. Now let's talk about prices and specifications available at launch. And there will be 6 bikes available in the SLR trim. So this is a top level super light racing version. There will still be an SL version of the Madone, but using the old frame design. But you can still get a cheaper Madone if you want it. It just won't have the new technology of the latest SLR. I predict next year or year after that SLR will come down to the SL. So there will be a more affordable version of the SLR in the future, if not an early adopter, and we'll wait a year or two for the SLR at an SL price point. But here in the UK, the price for the SLR start from just under £7,000 and go up to nearly £14,000. £14,000 is a serious shed load of money, and that is quite a hefty price tag, and definitely puts it up there with some of the more expensive road bikes available right now. I mean, that is an eye-watering price. I mean, yes, you buy a car, you buy a motorbike, you buy lots of nice things for that money. So that is, it's a shame bikes are getting that expensive, but that is what it costs. And there will be a Project One availability very soon as well. So in summary then, the new Madone SLR is faster, it's lighter, and it's just as comfy as the old Madone. And I can't wait to ride it, and hopefully I'll get my chance to ride one very soon. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you want to see my first ride review on a brand new bike. But going off the details of the new bike, the claims are quite impressive. The fact you get them from 25k an hour up to 45. You get the same comfort as the old bike and quite a chunk lighter as well. So all benefits, improvements I think we can all appreciate if we want an aero top flight race bike, whether riding for fun, for speed, or whether you are actually racing. And I personally think it's a fantastic looking bike. I've always liked the look of the Madone, but I like the look of the new bike even more. And I think the new IsoFlow looks fantastic. It looks really good. I can't wait to see it in the flesh. And the more understated graphics and decals, we don't have that massive Trek logo on the downshield anymore. It's a smart move. So it's a better looking bike than the old bike by quite a stretch. But is it actually as fast as they say? Is it as light as they say? And is it as comfy as they say? Well, I can't answer the questions until I get my bub on the saddle of a new bike. And hopefully I'll get a chance to ride one in a few weeks' time. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel by hitting that button right there. And if you want to see a roundup of the best aero bikes currently available, then hit the button right here. But that's all for today. The brand new Trek Madone SLR, easily the most radical new bike launched this year. Let me know your thoughts down below by leaving a comment. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon.